art gallery. And ahead of us on our left you'll see the art centre. These are the Gothic revival buildings I was talking about before that Benjamin Mountford designed. There were 21 buildings on that site, and we've spent about $200 million repairing most of them. Some haven't been completed yet. We've got a bit of work to do yet. Just need to raise another 30 or 40 million. This site used to be a school campus for Boys High School and the university, right up until the 1970s when the university moved away. Now it's the art centre. Every Sunday there's a Sunday market, which you can see in full swing on the left hand side. So if you haven't been to the Sunday market, this is the stop to get off at. Maybe some last minute Christmas shopping. This is stop number 12. And the university was on site right up until 1974. The houses on the right hand side that you can see, which are now all heritage listed houses, were student flats. They were a lot more run down than they are now. In fact, I remember some really good student parties in some of those houses in 1974. On the left hand side, the mechanical engineering building of the old university, which still needs to be fixed up. Clock tower entrance you can see on the left hand side. That building has now been completely restored and repaired. And this is stop number 13. Christchurch Botanic Gardens. It's about 21 hectares of gardens, flora from all over the world and from New Zealand, and you can wander around the gardens to your heart's content, just enjoying, soaking up the peace and tranquility of the place. And if you don't feel like walking, there is a tour that takes you around the gardens. It leads from the Peacock Fountain. A Christchurch family who lived on Scarborough Hill, which is on the outskirts of Christchurch, lost their house in the earthquakes. Instead of rebuilding, they took the insurance money and built a museum. The Wakefield family, Mr. and Mrs. Wakefield, who've both sadly passed away, donated their insurance money to build that museum. It houses their art collection. They actually collected earthquake rubble and crushed it into aggregate and built their museum out of it. So quite a poignant reminder of what happened in 2011. On the left-hand side is Christ College, the oldest secondary school in Christchurch, in New Zealand actually. And if you look through the gates to the left, you'll see a building in the background with a steep roof. That's the oldest school building still being used in New Zealand. The college was established in 1850 at Littleton. Right, we're turning down into Armour Street now, and on the left you'll see our Hagley Park. Hagley Park is the largest urban park in New Zealand and one of the largest in the world. Very popular tram stop, also a very popular little place to get off if you're feeling a little bit hungry. Tram stop number 18, New Regent Street. Right, Marjorie has just joined us at the back. She's going to be looking after your health and safety on the tram. My name's Tony. I'll be looking after you for the next circuit. You're on 1888. We're going to be doing a circuit through Christchurch, which will take us about 50 minutes. There are 18 stops on the journey, and we stop at every stop. So you don't need to ring the bell. Please don't ring the bell, because that's how Marjorie communicates with me. We're like an old married couple. If she wants a cup of tea, she rings the bell. And as you know already, I'm sure, this is a hop-on, hop-off service. We've got 5 trams operating today, which means they're running at about 10 or 15 minutes apart. So you never have to wait too long for the next one to arrive. This is tram 1888, the lucky tram from Sydney. It's the youngest tram in the fleet. 1888 is only 90 years old. The oldest is number 11. It's 120. This is tram stop number 1, Cathedral Junction. Well, this is Cathedral Square. We're entering now. On the left-hand side, the Anglican Cathedral, which is a postcard cathedral for Christchurch, and damaged very seriously in the earthquake events of 2010 and 2011. We decided to repair it and rebuild it, and we're about halfway through that process now, at a cost of around $160 million, although the cost does keep going up. It's expected the cathedral will be rebuilt by 2027. So we're heading down towards the river, and we'll turn left at the river just before crossing the bridge to stop number 3. On our left hand side, the white building with the black metal windows is one of my favourite restoration jobs since the earthquakes. The old Public Trust building dating back to the 1920s. A neoclassical building was threatened with demolition on more than one occasion after the earthquakes. The owner wanted to pull it down. But in the end it was restored and to its former glory. And you can see the coat of arms at the top there, the English lion and the Scottish unicorn. I can understand why the English have a lion as their symbol, but I can't work out why the Scots have chosen the unicorn. They've been into the whiskey the night before. Right, we're about to head into the terrace area now, which is where most of the food shops, restaurants and bars are located here in Christchurch. There's more than 20 restaurants in those buildings on the left hand side. And as we head into this area, you'll see on the right the steps leading down to the Avon River. Favourite spot to sit down, relax, have a bite to eat. This is tram stop number 4. The Riverside Market can be found down the alley to our right hand side. There are more than 70 food stalls and food outlets in the market. And from here we head down Cashel Street, which is the main shopping area of Christchurch. Most of the retail shopping in the city can be found in Cashel Street. And the interesting thing about this street, it is the main shopping area of Christchurch and has been the main shopping area of Christchurch since the middle of the 19th century. But there are only 3 buildings in the street left standing after the earthquakes of 2011. So what you see in Cashel Street now is nothing like what it used to look like. I mean, more than 90% of the city centre in Christchurch was damaged beyond repair in those earthquakes. That's more than 1,200 buildings that had to be demolished and rebuilt since 2011. And if you want to know what Christchurch looked like, or have a little bit of an idea of what Christchurch looked like before then, there is a mural on a wall over to the right. I'll show it to you as we move down Cashel Street. An artist has painted on a wall what Christchurch used to look like before the earthquakes. The other notable thing about Cashel Street is we've got laneways, five lanes on the left and 3 lanes on the right, with a whole lot more retail shopping. So this is definitely the place to go if you want to do some last minute Christmas shopping. And if you want to go to a traditional department store, Ballantyne's department store is the other survivor from 2011. Ballantyne's is a traditional full-service department store. You don't see many of them anymore. This is stop number 6. This is the crossing of High Street and Cashel Street. High Street in front of us, we'll be turning down to shortly, used to be known as Sumner Road because it travelled, the road went all the way from Cathedral Square all the way out to Sumner. And back then in the 1930s, the tram used to run all the way out to Sumner as well. Up until the 1950s, we had around about 80 or 90 kilometres of tram tracks in Christchurch. That was our main form of public transport. And then in the 1950s, some genius decided to rip up all the tram tracks and replace them with diesel buses. Probably not the wisest thing we've ever done. So now we're heading down High Street, and in the distance you'll see Mount Cavendish on the skyline. That's where the gondola is located. It looks like a lovely clear day now. There was a lot of cloud around there this morning, but it's all burned away. Perfect day to go up on the gondola. You'll get a great view out over Christchurch, the Canterbury Plains. You'll see the Southern Alps, no doubt. And if you look back the other direction, straight down into Littleton Harbour, which is our main port. During the earthquakes, people who lived in the city had to move out. It was a dangerous place to be. Most of the buildings were red stickered, which means they were too dangerous to enter. Many of the buildings were yellow stickered, which meant they were too dangerous to live in. So many people had to leave, and of course our population in the CBD, or the central business area, dwindled quite considerably. So our target is to get 20,000 people back into the city. We've got about 7,000 living here now, and we're hoping to reach that target of 20,000 in the next 5 or 10 years. So that area on the left-hand side is called the East Frame, and those apartments are selling for anything from about 600,000 upwards, which is these days reasonably affordable. In front of us, and you'll get a better view of it as we turn to the right, is our construction site. This is the new Te Kaha Sports Stadium. It will be a covered stadium seating 30,000 people. It's going to cost about $685 million to build. Right, we're heading up High Street now. This is an area of the city which is known for its street art, and you'll see some wonderful murals here. There's one on the right-hand side of John Britton's motorcycle. John Britton was a well-known Christchurch engineer who built that motorbike in his garage. Then went to the United States, raced it at Daytona, and beat most of the big brand motorcycle manufacturers in a number of races in its class. It was regarded as a revolutionary motorcycle of its time. Directly in front of us, to our right, the Musart Hotel, which is an old office block from 1960. It survived the quakes okay, and has since been turned into a boutique hotel. It has a very popular rooftop bar on the top called the Pink Lady. You can see the nickel palms at the top, and you can just imagine what a great view out over the city you will enjoy if you're having a cold beer or a Sauvignon Blanc at the Pink Lady. Just coming up on our right hand side is a glimpse of what Christchurch, most of the centre of Christchurch, used to look like. Not that long ago. Lots of holes in the ground. This was the Holiday Inn, 14-storey hotel. It was demolished after the earthquakes and is one of the last to be rebuilt. I understand there's an office block planned for the site in the not too distant future. And you'll also notice the new buildings in Christchurch are limited in their heights. 28 metres is as tall as we build at the moment. People of Christchurch made a decision that they didn't want high-rise buildings in the new Christchurch, so we have a height restriction of 28 metres, which means the sun gets to shine in the city without casting too many shadows. And there aren't any wind tunnels that we experienced before the earthquakes with very tall buildings. These buildings are all built on base isolation foundations. This is a technology that's revolutionary. It's rubber and lead foundations. Base isolation technology means these buildings can survive an earthquake of up to 8.5 on the Richter scale, which is incredibly powerful. Historically in New Zealand, we might get an earthquake of that magnitude every 500 to 1,000 years.